it this way, like this here. Ringers are off. Identification is in my pocket. I know, right? I think I can manage that. Okay, let me get these ringers on. How's everybody day been?
Busy.
Busy? Hey, I can agree. Long as you manage
Yes,
this.
yes. I ended.
Are we into the Facebook? Freeman Bosley look like he is live on YouTube. I don't know if the mics are hot or not. The mics are hot. Welcome, everyone. We're here on the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show about to go live.
I mean, if you think about where she was,
Oh yeah.
and where she is
No,
now.
she don't need us. We don't.
What's going on, St. Louis? You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600. Hallelujah AM. How's it going out there? Boy, it's been a hell of a week. I mean, the weather's up and down. This is where you catch the cold.
Well, that's how you know you're in St. Louis.
Well, all right, one of that. But then it's also where you catch that cold.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm getting older now, so I'm still trying to run around like I used to, and it's just not working. It's just not working. I got my main man, Anthony Shaheed, here with me this morning.
Good morning, Merrick. Good morning, St. Louis. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I'm excited this morning, especially some of the guests that's coming in here.
yeah.
Brother Shaheed is excited. When I get excited, it's something to be excited about.
Yeah, we got the President of the Board of Aldermen debate going down.
That's what we got going
It's
down.
really not a debate. It's just people, the different candidates coming by, stopping by while they're out doing their thing,
Right.
stopping by the show, giving a little interview on what it is that they think is important.
But when they come
That's
in
right.
person, that means something when they come in the studio.
Yes.
If they can't come in person, they can't come. Yeah, that's what's up. Go ahead, Sister Felicia.
You
I
better
got Sister
tell it.
Felicia Hampton here.
You better tell it if they can't come in person, they can't come. So we have in person. I'm just excited this morning. Guys, go ahead and tag 10 friends and bring them in. It's going to be a live show. As always, get that pen and paper out because you need to take some notes.
All right. Now, this is for the upcoming election in November. The November general election.
Is that November the 8th, Mayor?
Is it November the 8th?
Yeah,
November the 8th it
8th.
is.
And those of you that need to get them absentee ballots because you're going to be going out of town, you need to get that started. You need to just go on down there to the election board, tell them you're not going to be around, and you need to get that ballot in.
I believe
Yes.
early voting is the 25th. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact it's the 25th.
All right, well, it's coming in. But here's the other piece to this thing.
What's that?
We had a very, very, very low turnout in August. Yeah, it was a very low turnout, and our candidate will probably want to address that at some point. But let us not make that same mistake.
Yes.
We had less than 7% of voting eligible voters
It was
actually
embar-
participated.
It really was embarrassing.
Yes. So we wanna definitely beat that. So without further ado, why don't we welcome and I'll introduce to the listening audience our candidate that's running for President of the Board of Aldermen. She's one of them, and this is Miss Megan Green. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me back again. It's been a long time. I don't think I've seen you since, or been on the show since the pandemic. So
That's right.
I really appreciate the invite and the conversation today.
Okay, well, Megan, for people that probably just met you for the first time, and for those that just simply don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been on the Board of Aldermen.
Sure. I've been on the Board of Aldermen for the past 8 years. I represent the Tower Grove South area right now. It's a great, vibrant, diverse community, big immigrant population because we're pretty close to the International Institute. I am originally from upstate New York. I moved here in 2005, so I guess about 17 years ago, to do a post-grad program called the Coro Fellows Program.
I know Coro.
And after Coro, I, just dove into helping out in
You
St.
fell
Louis.
in love with St. Louis.
I did. Within 3 weeks, I knew I was going to stay here.
Wow, wow.
I did. I came here and I just said, this place is great. We have wonderful architecture. We have great, museums and a lot of great free things to do.
That our people don't know about.
Yes, but sometimes I think as a city we get in our own way.
Yeah.
And we don't, we're so tied to doing things the way that they've always been done that we don't address some of our most pressing issues in the ways that we need to today. And that's the energy that I want to bring to the Board of Aldermen, to the presidency, to make sure that we're building a city that's ready for the 21st century.
Well, in light of the embarrassing situations that our elected officials got us in back in the summer, I think we're still experiencing some blowback from that. What is it what's your plan? How do you plan to get people re-engaged? Because quite frankly, I think that a lot of folks, in light of these things, that just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't care anymore, and they don't want to be bothered.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we have to do is engage people in the political process. And that's how we build back trust. So, if we do something right now called participatory budgeting, where, every alderman at the moment gets $300,000 a year in ward capital funds.
Oh, thanks to me.
And thanks to you. And we and we use that for, dumpsters and street paving and street humps and lights and, every capital expense that you need. But what we do in the 15th Ward is, every 2 years I go to voters and I say, okay, bring me your projects. What do you want to see done with this money? And we form a citizen commission who takes in all the ideas and then works with our city departments to figure out how much everything's going to cost. And then they go back to voters and they say, okay, these are the top 10 projects, based upon what everybody wanted to see the money used on. Let's vote on it. And so then when people vote on, enhanced street lights, and then they go in, they say, oh, government's actually working for me. I asked it to do something and it's doing it. And it builds trust, and it also builds awareness of how some of these governmental processes work. Why it takes so long to get some of the things done in city government that it does, and some of the obstacles that we face. And I think that builds back trust. But we got to do more than that. I think we have to look at our entire development system right now. That was the crux of the impropriety that we saw, is this development system that allows aldermen to kind of make decisions on their own ward without a standardized process for the city, right? A developer should be able to go down to City Hall and say, I'm interested in developing in this area of the city, and the city should be able to say, in that area of the city, you qualify for this amount of tax incentive. You are required to do, X, Y, and Z, whether it's provide some affordable housing in it, or give some funding back to the school district, or improve some of the infrastructure around it. And then I hear myself. and then once we do that, I think that starts to get a standardized process, so people know that we're not playing the game in a way that some people have more access than others, right?
Well, what role do you see the alderman playing then if the developers come in and do what they want to do? I mean, the aldermen are elected by the people. The developers aren't elected by anybody.
So I think our
their
role
money.
is saying whether or not the community supports the project.
Right.
But when it is our job to, if the community wants it, yes, we write that letter of support saying, yes, our community supports it. But I think that where we get into problems is when aldermen have the ability to say, hey, I can give you this much tax incentive, even if, SLDC says it doesn't qualify for that. And so if we create a standardized process for the financing piece of it, I think that's going to actually make it easier to do some development in the city too, because then developers know what to expect out of the city, rather than, okay, I'm going to go to this ward and they have different standards than this ward, which has different standards than this ward. Our job just needs to be the advocate for our constituents and saying, we want this project, we don't want this project, or we want this project, but we got to see some community benefits attached to it.
But the wards are different.
Yes.
They're different in many respects, and so the person that knows that best is the alderman, all right? And so invariably, the alderman should be the one that's saying, these are some of the things that we're interested in, but of course, after consulting with the people in the ward, you just don't want him being a free agent.
Yes.
But there's consulting with the people in the ward,
Yes.
people in the neighborhoods,
Yes.
but at the same time, the alderman has been elected.
Yes.
You hear what I'm saying?
And that's still, what I'm saying should happen. I just think that what we're not experts in is financing, right? We have experts down at City Hall that crunch the numbers on all these development deals, and they know, based upon their formula, how much development should get in tax breaks, depending upon where they are in the city. And that's the part that I think needs to be standardized. So it's a level playing field across the city.
All right. Well, we're going to go to a break, and we're going to have you over for this next segment. It's 22 minutes. We haven't gotten into the minutia and the other issues that I want to talk to you about. So we're going to get
Drill
to
down,
those.
what you're saying.
Drill down.
Okay.
All right. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600 AM. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Keep it on lock. Quick. Playing. Quit playing. Welcome back, St. Louis. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600. Hallelujah, AM. We were just talking to Alderman Megan Green, who's running for president of the Board of Aldermen in an election that's coming up in November. So let us resume our conversation. Why don't we just go straight to this? I'm being told that you want to defund the police. Is that correct? Or
You know, I think that's a loaded term, you know, because it means different things to different people. So I'll tell you what I believe in.
okay, that's what I want.
What I believe in is recognizing that we are one of the highest staffed police departments per capita in the country. We have a very top-heavy police department right now, which means that we don't have the boots on the ground that we really should have, but we need to restructure the police department to make sure that we don't have so many folks sitting in desk jobs and we have more people that are out actually patrolling the streets. You know, second thing I think we got to recognize is, you know, these vacant officer positions have existed for almost the entire time I have been in an elected office. You know, even when we passed a tax increase back in 2017 that was supposed to help us hire more police, it didn't help. It didn't work. But what we have been doing is cutting social services, you know, year after year after year. And I think the place that we need to reinvest that money from those vacant officer positions is in things like affordable housing. It's in substance use. It's in mental health. It's in hiring professionals to actually respond to the reason people are calling 911. You know, over 50% of calls into 911 are not really police matters. They're calls about folks that are poor or folks that are unhoused or people with addiction or people with mental illness. And an officer isn't the right person to be showing up to a lot of those calls, right? And so we need to staff up in those areas, which will then take all of that stuff off the plate of police so they can actually focus on crime and violent crime in particular.
So you're in favor of putting more police on the street, more boots on the ground? You're in favor of that?
Well, I'm in favor of restructuring the police department. So I don't think we need to hire more officers. I think we have the number that we need. The problem is we're not allocating them well. Because when you're allocating so many folks that are sitting, you know, in an office rather than out patrolling the streets, that's where the problem is. And it's often the most senior officers that are, you know, in those desk jobs. And you have the newest officers that are out there patrolling the streets. That's backwards in a lot of ways, right? Because you want those new guys that are out on the street to have support from those veteran officers. And so I think we got to look at how we're allocating those police resources right now, look at the promotional structure that kind of promotes people off the street, and make sure that we're allocating officers in a way that actually makes sense.
Let me ask you a question, because you talked about being top-heavy. Tell
Yeah.
me what you would do. Kind of explain that from the chief on that. How
Yeah.
would you do it on that top-heavy piece?
You know, the person that I used to have this conversation with a lot was late Alderman Larry Arnowitz. He actually had a lot of thoughts on this. And Larry's thought on this, and I tend to agree with him, was that we should get rid of the lieutenant level. That we basically have
Lieutenant Colonel?
the lieutenant colonel level. That we have an extra kind of administrative group of officers that we don't necessarily need. And so I think we can figure out how to give people promotions, how to increase, you know, their raises their wages as they've been there over longer portions of time, but not doing it in a way that then takes them off the streets, right? Because we need, you know, folks to be able to show up when a 911 call is made. And that's going to be easier when we have less people on desk jobs and more people out on the streets.
So you're not for defunding the police, you're for restructuring the police, is that correct?
Restructuring, and I would say reallocating the money that's from those vacant officer positions. You know, we've
Reallocating the money outside the police department?
Correct.
Or reallocating the money within the police department?
outside of the police department
So
to,
that's taking money from the police department?
it is.
Okay.
And
So
that's,
what's happening with the money now?
Yeah.
Because if you're not paying the officers because we don't have them, but we have a budget to
Yeah.
pay a certain number of our officers, where does that money go now?
So last year in the budget process, about 4 million of it got reallocated over into social services and social programs. And that's what I think should be happening, because the more that we invest in those programs, the more it's going to take things off the plates of officers, right? You know, we want them to be able to show up to the violent crime. They don't necessarily need to show up when, you know, somebody calls about an unhoused person sleeping on the streets, right? And so we got to make sure that we have the right person showing up to the right call, who can actually address the issue at hand.
So I'm gonna play the devil's advocate because you know that's what I'm good at. So
Full disclosure, hold on now.
Absolutely. We going all the way.
Are you supporting her or are
Yes.
you endorsing her?
I have already
See, okay.
done that a long time ago.
Yes.
So full disclosure. Come on.
So
But see,
full
we can still
disclosure.
play devil's advocate.
We can still play devil's advocate because
Yeah.
you know
No, I'm just-
Yeah.
that's right. So you know, so
This morning, brothers and sisters, this morning.
so I'm just saying that you know how do we respond to those mothers and those families who are victims of crime and the people in the neighborhood who don't understand what you're talking about. Like you're talking about, you know, a certain number of calls coming in 911. They're concerned about, I got these, when I'm knocking on doors, these people were shooting 7 to 8 shots. You know, what do I do about that? I can't leave my house. I can't go here. I can't go to the grocery store. What do you tell them? What do you tell my mother who had somebody pull up and rob her at gunpoint of her car at 12 o'clock in the afternoon when she's taking her groceries out the car? So those are the things that people see.
Yes.
And so when you're talking about, you know, when we're saying, I understand, you know, people like the cliche defund the police department, but it's good that you broke it down and explained, you know, what that means
Yeah.
because that'll help educate people. But what's the process to that restructuring? And how long are these people are going to have, these constituencies are going to have to wait for that process to get more
Yeah.
police on the ground?
Yeah.
You get me? Those
Yes.
are them people are asking those questions because they want help now.
Yes.
Because we have to call
Yes.
911
Yes.
because it's a lot of violence in a lot of areas.
So a couple of things to that point. You know, one of the things that I want to bring to St. Louis is a program called Operation Peacemaker. And this was done in Richmond, California. Richmond's about the size of St. Louis, has pretty similar demographics, and used to be called the homicide capital of the country, you know, much like we are. So they started this fellowship program where they specifically engaged with people that were at risk of committing gun crimes. And they, you know, identified them because they had either, you know, been in the hospital with a gunshot wound or they had been convicted of a gun crime in the past. And they went to them and they said, you know, what has to happen to change the trajectory of your life? Like, you're going to end up dead or killing somebody if you continue doing this. And they engaged with folks in that way. If they needed, you know, housing, they got them housing. They paid them a monthly stipend to be in the fellowship program. And over the first year, they saw about a 33% reduction in violent crime. And over 5 years, it was over 50% reduction. So, I mean, it was pretty immediate that they started to see some response to that. And it worked because we were targeted in our approach. But in terms of restructuring the police department, you know, I'm hopeful that that's going to happen when we get a new police chief in there. You know, we still don't have a new police chief. And I do, you know, think the mayor did the right thing by opening it up nationally and starting that search over. And I think we have to evaluate some things within
We
city.
should've got a new police chief in the first search.
Yes.
You don't create a second search. But anyway.
Well, I think, you know, we got to look at the way that you know, we rate and promote people within, you know, our personnel system in the city. You know, one of the big
Yeah.
problems is everybody goes through that application, and the person who ends up at the top because of the way the rules were written is somebody that nobody was going to be happy with being chief.
Yeah,
Well,
she
they gotta-
outlined
Is that,
that.
is that something that we just recognized? Is that something that we just knew was going on? I think that people, when they elect these folks to these offices, they expect people to be able to hit the ground running,
Yeah.
not say, oh, we didn't get that one right, so now we got to
Yeah.
start over after a year.
Yeah.
The people don't elect you for that. You're not playing at Herbert Hoover.
Right.
Mayor's office in City Hall plays at the Dome.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I will say in this case, one of the challenges we have is a lot of this promotional system is written into the city charter, so it's not something we can just go and a mayor can step in and change without taking it to voters, and so we have a bill right now sponsored by Alderwoman Rice that would start a charter commission for the city, and I think this is really important because our personnel structures are operating like we're in the 1950s and 1960s. Right? We can't hire people in a fast way. Somebody applies to the city, it might be 6-9 months before they actually get an interview, just because of the cumbersome process that is written into our city charter. So I think, we got to open up that system. We got to change it so it's easier to hire people. We can be more nimble. We can compete better with, the private sector who can, hire people in a fast way, because we can't do that. And it's not just in the police departments. Every single city department that's hurting for workers right now. We have 1,000 vacancies of workers in St. Louis city government.
Well, so you guys just hired a new director of personnel.
Yes.
In the city of St. Louis that's starting. I'm gonna go back to something you said. You were talking about this peace group out of California.
Yeah, Operation Peacemaker.
Operation Peacemaker. So how would that work with what we already have, Cure Violence?
It's a great, it works with it wonderfully. So the way that it could work is, Cure Violence is working to identify, an emergent situation, right? So then you could have something like Operation Peacemaker that after we've de-escalated that situation, we go to the parties that are involved and say, hey, we want to make sure this doesn't happen again. So let's get you over into this fellowship program. Let's work on changing the trajectory of your life so that we're not back having to de-escalate another conflict in another month or 2 or 3.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good. Sounds good to me.
Well, good. I'm glad. From time to time, I have a good idea.
Now, on this piece of literature, you say that they want to committed to having proven strategies to reduce crime.
Yeah.
Now, what proven strategies are you aware of?
I mean, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with Operation Peacemaker. We have good data around it that shows that it works. And to me, that's where we should be investing resources. We have a lot of crime prevention programs in other cities that work, that have shown that they have good results. And so,
share with the specifics.
Yeah.
How is it working?
Yeah.
You say it's good. You have the data. Give us some examples.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
yeah. Well, I mean, in the case of Operation Peacemaker, I mean, what it looks like is having individual call-ins with folks that have, been involved in gun crimes, or in the case of, if we partnered it with Cure Violence, in the case of folks that have had to be de-escalated from a situation. And it would be bringing them in and say, hey, we're prepared to pay your monthly living expenses, give you a stipend to basically help stabilize your life, right? We're prepared to get you housing in a location that is maybe outside of the place where you're around some bad influences. We're ready to get you childcare if that's what you need. We're ready to get you substance abuse help if that's what you need. We're ready to get you, an education, whether that is helping them complete a GED program or getting involved in a trade program or going on to college. But we're going to do all of those things to support them holistically in going in a different direction. Because the price of not doing that is probably the price of a life.
Yes.
And so, what's also, I think, really great about this program is one of the people that helped start it actually lives in St. Louis now. Reverend Clinton Stansel is a pastor here in St. Louis now, who's originally from California and was really involved in this program when it first started up. And so we have resources here. We have people who even know how to do this here in St. Louis if we engage them.
Well,
So is
the
this
big
a
question.
prevention, or is it something that it's after a reaction? Are we just responding to, okay, so this person's been shot, now we can help you? Or do we have something that's prevention, like before? We have
Prevention.
at risk.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's what, so
Yeah.
you're saying that it pairs with Cure Violence. Cure Violence go out and identify the perpetrators of crime. So they keep this list, and they work with these individuals, and they kind of bring them in and have conversations with them. So if you're saying they identify, and then Peace comes in to do that. How is it funded? And that's the key question.
I mean, they funded it through government funding, and I think their first year they only spent $500,000 on it.
Is that federal or state?
It was local money.
Oh, local. Okay.
Local money. And so it's not a very expensive program to run, actually, and it's much cheaper than, the prices we would pay in incarceration of putting away somebody for life who, takes a life or commits a gun crime. And so to me, that's where we should be investing resources. And beyond, investing in violent crime prevention, which is what Operation Peacemaker does, we recognize that a lot of the crimes that we do and see in our community are the result of poverty and the result of drug-seeking behavior. I mean, we have a really huge fentanyl epidemic in this city right now, and we don't have the treatment available, especially for folks that don't have insurance or good insurance, right? And we have, if we're going to actually address that issue, we've got to be investing in building some better treatment capacity in this city, or else we're just going to keep locking folks up for addiction. They get out, they go and they break into folks' cars again, and just you repeat the cycle if we never actually get to the root of what's causing it.
Well, the state is receiving that settlement money from the Johnson & Johnson settlement. That's $458 million. And I know that 60% of it goes to the state and 40% of it goes to the local.
Yeah.
And so that money is supposed to be used for treatment, prevention, all the drug prevention, anything that sets up for drugs. So
That's great. I mean, it's so needed in this city. And
With the crime, one of the things we talk about on this show all the time, crime and racism destroys any city.
yes,
There's no way around
Yeah.
that. And listen to what the senator just said, that type of money coming in here, I don't think $500,000 is no money to put in a program like this, especially if you're really trying to take care of some business, because I mean, some of the murders that you're hearing now is senseless.
Yep.
One brother the other week buried 2 nephews on the same day, and all that old kind of stuff where a son and a daughter or 2 twins is in the same funeral parlor at the same time. When we start talking like that, you can't play with it like that. And I have to go back to when Mayor Bosley was in office, because they brought data out how it absolutely went down. That's something that they should be studying. How Allah blessed Mayor Bosley to come in office, and the way he did with his gang abatement program, it just it wasn't like we were just playing with it. We took care of some business. So,
Right.
I hope you get in there and do what you're supposed to be doing. I'm looking here, seeing you got some heavy hitters. Matter of fact, Senator Carla Mayer's here. You can't get too heavy than that. But then I don't want to get.
But I know we got a short time,
Go ahead.
so I want to ask her
Yes, ma'am.
one other question before she leaves, just to address it so the people are talking about it. So basically, we're talking about hiring.
Yeah.
And so now the city is, needing more employers. Are you guys going to be willing to open that up to people outside the city for that work?
that again will take a charter change if we're going to do that. And the last couple times we've took it to voters have said no.
It was so
And
close.
I think, from the feedback that I've heard from folks, the reason that people who have voted against it is because of concern of then not having a police force that's representative of St. Louis, right? I think there's a lot of concern of what happens if we start having officers that are, live in Jefferson County or out in West County come in and policing predominantly black neighborhoods that do not understand St. Louis, do not understand black culture, do not understand our city. And so, I think that if we were to put something on the ballot that lifted the residency requirement for every employee except police, I think it would pass. And I think that the way to get it to pass for police is to have a real demonstration that it is not going to gut minority hiring. Because
Why is it that you think that you need to be outside the city to find police? You don't, in your opinion, don't believe that they can be found here?
Oh, I think they can. And I didn't support lifting the residency requirement because I think that they can and should be found in the city. But I think the only way that we should lift it for police is if we can ensure that it is not going to impact minority hiring and recruitment. And I don't think we can do that right now.
I don't think you can do it either.
And so I don't think we should be lifting it until we see some movement, locally in minority hiring.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the jail. We got an overcrowded jail. We got people that are dying, and we have problems in that facility. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah. I mean, I believe that we're on track to have some major renovations done on it by next
They're
summer.
Still working on the locks.
Yeah. And
So when do we talk about the locks? And they didn't call any minorities to assist with that. Why was that? Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, better 2 years ago.
yeah. I mean, from what I understand, this issue with the locks was known for almost a decade, but nobody talked about it. I didn't know about it until the end of the Cruisen administration. I think most of the folks at the Board of Aldermen didn't know this was an
They wasn't
issue
listening.
until the end of that administration. And
So we didn't know that people were opening up their cells and saying, "Okay, I'll be back in a little while. You want some pork and rice? I'm going down the street here."
I think some people knew. I think city government at large did not know that was happening, and it has created a lot of challenges of moving people around that building while we're having to clear certain floors and renovate those floors. But I do think that once we get to the place where the renovations are completed, we're going to start to see some better results. But we also just got to be, and this is more on the judges, but we've got to be moving folks through the criminal justice system faster than we are right now, so that they're not being held there for as long as they are.
Ms. Megan Green, in the last minute, give your information out so if people want to get with you, if they want to try to come out and help you, where can they go? We only got about 30 good
Okay.
strong seconds to give you.
All
that.
right. You can go to green4stl.com, and on that site, you can sign up to volunteer, to donate, to get involved. You can also follow me on Twitter at Megan Aaliyah or on Facebook at Megan Aaliyah Green.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Why don't you stay over for one more segment, because I got a couple more questions here.
Okay.
And I know you do have to go somewhere, so you check that out.
Let's
You-
give her
you-
10 minutes on the next
Yeah,
segment.
Okay.
Yeah, you had indicated that you did have to be someplace, so.
Yeah.
We appreciate it because we're still drilling down.
Yeah. No, I texted the person. He says it's good if it's okay if I'm a little late. So.
Are we going,
Let's go to the next
Yeah, we'll
segment.
take 10 more minutes, okay?
Okay.
10 minutes?
At 10 minutes after this, because I got a couple of issues here that I want.
So it's time for a break.
Is it? It's time for a break. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show.
Keep it on lock.
KTZ
Keep it on lock.
1600. Hallelujah.
Quit playing.
AM. Keep it on lock. Quit playing. Huh. Welcome back, St. Louis. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600. Hallelujah. AM.
Hallelujah.
Huh?
AM.
Well, shit, he just
Come
smiling
on now,
over
come
there.
on, come on. Good morning, y'all.
We're talking about this president of Board of Aldermen's race. We got two candidates here.
Yes.
One is Megan Green. We've been talking with her for the last 30 minutes, and she's been trying to give a good account of herself. So, and she's being supported by State Senator Carla May. She's on her letterhead.
That's right.
So we'll see what's going on with that. But, you know, I think that, you know, the conversations are good. I think the information that you provided has been good and helpful. You know, I did want to bring up one issue because as a black man, where is that? Yeah,
You was talking about
we're
the
talking
jail,
about
though.
yeah. Well,
You
we're
already did
talking
that.
about that. She got to go. But you accused. Well, is it true that you accused Senator Steve Roberts of rape a couple times, despite not really having any clear evidence of that fact, you know, because I have to ask that.
Yeah. Well, I will say that, Cora Faith Walker was a friend of mine. She's somebody that I believe, that I always believed, and I continue to believe to this day. And, I am saddened by the early passing of her, and that she can't, be here to speak for herself on these issues and defend herself. But as somebody that was a friend and somebody who I, have always believed, yes, I believe what she had to say.
Yeah, okay, well, also, she's not here, but, other things need to also be said. Cora Faith Walker was a party girl, all right, and she was an elected official, and she represented people well. But let's not try to downplay that or undercut that, because a lot of the people know that, and they knew that at that time. So, and I'm not saying just because you at a party or whatever, you allow you're putting yourself in a situation where you can be raped. I don't think that was the case. I just think that they were more friendly than people let on to be. That's what I'm saying. So, and that's why I'm asking you that question. All right.
So,
Anybody else?
no, so basically, though, we have to be careful, especially in light of this new, this radio host who just got sued for defamation recently. It was a huge case. I don't know why it's escaping me, because I was blown away by it.
Are you talking about the Alex Jones case and the Sandy Hook victims?
No.
Yes,
You- oh, you talking about
absolutely.
that one?
That's the
Okay.
one I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Absolutely.
Okay.
And so, when you're saying, and so the thing about it is, you definitely want to support victims, but you also want to make sure that justice, is on the table, because even when because Cora was all of our friend. You got me? I served with her too. Brilliant, smart, and if you ever saw her, on the floor, you would know. You got me? And Steve is a brilliant, talented individual as well. And he's excellent. 2 lawyers, 2 excellent, would have been excellent representatives of the people. But even though we cannot say what happened because nobody was there, that's the first point. Nobody was there. The only thing that we have is what the justice system is all that we have. Now, we can't say the justice system has always been right, because we know in history that it has not. But at the same time, categorizing people too, we have to be careful in that light as well.
Yeah.
So,
What I will say
you know.
is, we know, and as somebody, I'm a rape survivor as well. Only 3% of rape accusations actually result in a conviction of a rapist.
Yes.
And we know that is very low. We know that the prevalence of rape is much higher than the conviction statistics.
Exactly. And we know that you can be very friendly, but when no is no, no is no.
Correct.
And I'll
Yeah.
say this, and I'm going to say this, I'm a rape survivor as well.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to have a friend that's supposed to be a friend,
Yep.
and they violate you, because I'm a very friendly person. Anybody know me, I love to party.
Yeah.
I love to dance. I love to smile. I have high energy, but no is no.
Exactly.
And you can be loose with 20 people, but if you told 21 no, he's supposed or she's supposed to respect that, because men get raped too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, we're talking about this.
So-
I know she has to go.
Yeah.
But, when you're talking about this, women, a lot, so I'll just say, we don't report everything.
Yep.
Sexual harassment, I can
Yep.
say that
Yes.
I can name all the people in the cases
Yep.
of sexual harassment
Yep.
that I have had as long as I've been working, even when I got to the Missouri State Capitol. But at the same time, we weren't there.
Yeah.
And the prosecutor said he didn't have enough evidence to prosecute. So this person has never been convicted of what people are saying that he did. And no one has the evidence. It's only those two people. So you want to say you want to believe victims. Yes, we support victims. We believe victims. But at the same time, you also have to evaluate victims as well. Because in history, we can definitely say, especially when it comes to African American, I'm not saying in this case, but I'm saying when it comes to African American male being falsely accused, look at Emmett Till, being falsely accused and convicted in the public opinion,
And how old was he?
14 years old.
14 years old. And they said he was with a white woman. Don't even get me talking about the boy that was in jail all them years in Alabama. And the only reason he got out of jail because the girl that said he raped her was dying, and on her dying bed, she said she lied.
Yeah.
But his whole career was gone. So on both ends, you have to evaluate both ends. And so we have to be very careful when we're, accusing people, because everybody has to be evaluated based on what you can. And like I told her when she was here, I told her this. I said, let me tell you something. I'm not saying nothing never happened to you, because I can't say that, because I wasn't there. But at the same time, I told her, you can't expect me to treat somebody else differently because of what you're saying happened to you, because I wasn't there. So I can't go through my life or career accusing or assassinating somebody when I don't know exactly what happened. You follow me? And yeah, she probably shared it with a lot of people, and a lot of people know what happened. But then there's other people that know other stuff as well.
Right, and they know
That's
her
right.
side of the story.
So we got 2
And
minutes
it's two
left.
sides to every story.
Brother Shaheed didn't say anything about it
Yes,
because she's
sir.
not here. But what I want you to do is, what are you not getting out in this last minute and a half that we haven't talked about
Thank
that you
you.
need to get out?
I think just the important thing to know about this race is that, I want to build a St. Louis that works for everyone. And, we have had a St. Louis that I think is working very well for a handful of really wealthy and well-connected insiders, developers, things like that. And it's not working for most people in our city, right? Most areas of our city, have had poor city services for a long time, right? This isn't new, a lot of these issues, but we need to come to the table with actual solutions. And I'm the only candidate in this race that is coming to the table with solutions. And so I encourage any folks that want to learn more to go to my website at green4stl.com.
Don't go so fast. Slow it up.
green4stl.com. I'll say it again.
That's right.
If you log on there, I have a lot of information about the things that I would like to see done with the city. I do have the support of Mayor Jones as well, and of Congresswoman Bush. We have worked well and collaboratively together for years. I think we have pretty similar visions for where we want the city to go. And if we actually have a city government that's working together, I have no doubt that we can build a St. Louis that works for everyone.
And I like something you said, and I want to point it out to the audience. You said that a whole city.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. It can't be part of the city.
Correct.
A portion
Yeah.
of the city, but the whole city
Yes.
got to progress. And
Exactly.
that's key. And that's
Exactly.
something that people don't say.
Are you helping?
I'm just pointing out that she said something really well.
Very good.
That's right.
And I
All right,
appreciate
it's
that,
time-
Senator.
It's time to wrap this one up.
Thank you for coming in this morning. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming
Yes,
here this
thank
morning.
you.
All the women, we thank you, and thank you for your straightforwardness, and thank you
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
responding to the questions in an objective manner. So, good luck to you in
Thank
the
you.
upcoming race. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have an election coming up in November,
November 8th.
November 8th. We need you all to get ready, start getting ready now, and be prepared to go to the polls and vote.
Early-
Because
early
somebody-
voting.
Somebody
Yes.
is going to be president of the Board of Aldermen. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank
man.
you for the
Okay.
opportunity. I appreciate it.
Now, Carla May, you want to tell them about the
This
election?
and this early voting is what I want to know about.
Absolutely.
Senator, if you can help us with that, I would be so appreciative, because is there some early voting around the 25th?
October the 25th,
Okay.
Tuesday, October the 25th. Early voting starts Tuesday, October the 25th.
Okay.
Where
and
do you
they
get your
have-
absentee ballot? Is that early voting or absentee
No,
ballot?
so absentee, you can
That's
vote
okay.
absentee as well, but I mean, you should already have received your absentee ballot. I gotta look that up, but.
What you talking about, if they
But
want
when
to
I'm
vote
talking about
early?
no excuse no excuse voting, no excuse absentee voting, and you can go vote early down at the Board of Election or at those libraries. It's 3 libraries, and I'm gonna look them up on my phone in a minute.
Thing I want to be sure is the 25th, October the 25th. If they want to vote early, they have no reason not to come on and vote early. Is what I'm.
That's
trying to
right.
say.
You can vote early. Start Tuesday, October 25th. Go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Come on, we need you to vote.
Now you've been Pacific. We
That's
don't need
right.
no
Come on.
7% coming
By
out this
by
time.
November the 8th, everybody should be then already voted.
That's right.
That's right. Everybody should be then already voted.
No excuses. Is what
No
you're saying.
excuse. We need to get to the polls. You need to vote like your life depended on it.
Well, you do.
That's right. Your life does depend on it. You know, because we have issues right now that are that might be women's productive rights today. It's voting rights right now. But what other issue are they going to try to take away? These are individual rights that we are being stripped of, and it's unconstitutional. And you got to get to those polls, and you're going to have to vote. And I'm also putting in a plug for, you know, we got to vote. We got to take this Senate seat. We got to change Missouri and flip it blue, because I'm telling you, you don't want 2 U.S. Republican senators in this state. I don't care where somebody was born. And nobody have a problem. I mean, can't nobody choose what family they born into. But one thing you don't want is 2 Trumpsters as U.S. senators in the state of Missouri. Your life is dependent on your vote.
All right.
I'm telling you.
Okay,
I think
okay.
she's look, while we continue to talk, we need to make sure
think
those
we have all
libraries
the
that we're talking about, if the other candidate here, we're gonna bring them on in.
We have all the
But
candidates.
what we want to do is make sure we get that information out. If we can get that information, yes, sir. Come on in. So we thankful
All
this
right,
morning.
guys.
Do we have our
Absolutely.
other
Coda,
candidate
sir.
in?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good morning, good morning.
Just fine.
We're already live. Good morning,
Oh,
good
we're
morning.
live, all
Yes,
right.
sir.
How you doing?
Senator,
Good
what's
morning.
up?
How are you?
Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning.
Oh,
This
good.
is Saturday
Oh,
morning.
it's Saturday morning.
So
Gotcha.
you on the campaign trail, sir?
We're on the campaign trail. Yes,
Lot of
sir.
Activity and events?
All nonstop.
Non-stop?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
You got something after this?
I don't think I've got anything else after this. I got to go home and help put the baby to bed. I got a 3-month-old.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've been doing more than campaign?
That's right. Yeah, we got our first kid. He was more planned than this
Oh,
campaign.
it's a boy?
Baby boy, Harry.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you
Oh,
this
my
morning
God.
for coming in this morning. to our
Congratulations.
Happy
studio
to be here
morning.
this morning.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So Jack, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Kind of let's go easy at first, and then we can get into some of the other things. How is it that you came to want to run for our Board of Aldermen? How long you been on the Board of Aldermen, and where are we going from here?
Certainly. So I'm Jack Coder. I'm the 7th Ward Alderman. 7th Ward is downtown St. Louis, Soulard, Lafayette Square, and everything in between. The LaSalle Park Village, King Louis Square, some of our public housing there south of downtown. I've been on the Board of Aldermen almost 8 years. I got elected, I guess, in the spring of 2015. And prior to serving on the Board of Aldermen, I was an assistant circuit attorney under Jennifer Joyce in her office for a number of years. That's
that
actually where
right?
you and I met.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before that, I was a longtime political operative. I worked for the Democratic Central Committee, which now Senator May chairs, and worked for Senator McCaskill in a number of capacities on her campaigns, and started out right out of college, out of SLU, as an organizer for Barack Obama on the southeast side of St. Louis.
Is that right?
That's right. That was my first paying job out of school, was organizing on his
How about
campaign.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I decided to run for the Board of Aldermen years ago after getting involved in safety issues in my neighborhood, Soulard. I've lived in Soulard since I graduated from SLU, lived there all through law school, and now I'm raising my family there. And, you know, we had some challenges at the time, so I stepped up to serve on some neighborhood committees, got to know the movers and shakers in the neighborhood, and a couple of years later had an opportunity to run for alderman and did it.
So what are some of the things you've been able to accomplish during the time that you were there?
Well, so one of the things I'm very proud of is, you know, the 7th Ward in the last decade, of which almost 8 years I've been in office, we've grown that ward by 23%. We've brought over $800 million in new investment to my district. And you know, I think it's a testament in my ability to work with people and to attract, you know, business to the area. And I think in this job, if we could do that, get a fraction of that kind of growth in every ward in the city, would be a growing city, not a shrinking city.
Well, I think that you're blessed to have a more developable part of the more, a more desirable ward than a lot of people, a lot of aldermen.
Yeah.
So you kind of benefit from that on its own.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt.
But it's leadership that gets things done.
That's right.
So
There's-
you could have prime opportunity, but if there's no execution,
Right.
then it goes nowhere.
No, that's exactly right, Freeman. I mean, look, yes, I'm fortunate to represent a part of town that even naturally has just experienced that growth. Me and my opponent, we both represent very stable, growing parts of the city, and we've
So
got
is Soulard in your ward?
Yeah, Soulard's in my ward. That's where I live. I live on the south side, Soulard Heights, as we call it, the quiet side of Soulard. But so, all right, we've got to take the tools, and that's why, I mean, that's one of the big fundamental issues in this campaign is those economic development tools, right?
Right.
You know, I believe the tools that were good enough to grow my neighborhoods, to stabilize the communities I represent, North St. Louis should have the right to use those same tools and have the access to those development incentives to help grow the neighborhoods. And so that's what I'm fighting for, and that's why I have the support of so many aldermen in North St. Louis, is because I work with them every single day, and I've built strong relationships, not only my years in the Board of Aldermen, but my prior service on the working on the Democratic Central Committee. And I know we've got to make it a priority. We've got to redevelop North St. Louis, and we've got the tools to do so now. I mean, we've been blessed with over $500 million in federal funding from the American Rescue Plan Act,
And
300 plus
400.
another $300 to $400 million from the NFL lawsuit. Remains to be seen how many hundreds of millions we're actually going to realize from that
that's
thing.
right.
But so we've got some resources. It's a matter of priorities.
And you know, when I first got in office in 1993, we didn't have $1 million.
I was about to say you would have killed for $500 million as mayor.
About 15 or 20.
Right, right.
But now we have more money than we've ever had before. We've got more black elected officials than we've ever had before. And they are at the top. So what is the problem that money is not getting spent?
Freeman, it's driving me crazy. It's one of my biggest frustrations and reasons I'm doing this is we find ourselves in a situation where we've got more resources than we ever could have imagined as a city. A year and a half ago, July of 2021, the Board of Aldermen appropriated almost $160 million. The mayor at the time, she was new, she said this is life or death. We stayed back from summer recess. We worked, had some marathon meetings. We got that money appropriated. As we sit here today, a year and a half later, of that $160 million, $15 million of it's been spent. $15 million out the door. The $16 million we appropriated for homeless services, for more shelter space, $2 million's been spent, and it's getting cold again. That's not right. The $15 million we allocated for healthy home repair, zero's been spent. We're trying to get through the backlog to help keep seniors in their homes so they could repair their roofs, repair their leaky windows, and it's not getting spent. And it's the Board of Aldermen's job to do the oversight, to ask the questions. Why isn't it getting spent? And frankly, we're failing. We're not doing that. And we've been in a sort of a leadership vacuum for many months, even preceding the indictments. And we've got to be asking those questions. And they're not all gotchas. It's not all pointing fingers.
No, you're just
but
trying to move the envelope.
That's right.
Yeah,
You got to move the
that's it.
envelope. And then you got to ask, what do you need?
Right.
What's the missing link here?
We need
Well,
you to stick
that's a
around.
good break right there, and
We
we'll
need you
come
stick
back
around.
to
We're gonna
that
go
one.
to a break. All right.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KATZ 1600. Hallelujah. AM.
Keep
But
it
you
on
can-
lock.
On lock.
Quit playing.
And
Oh, so you just
Welcome back, St. Louis. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600. Hallelujah, AM. We're talking about politics, talking about government, talking about voting, talking about the upcoming election. We just had Megan Green in, and she shared her part. Now we've got the other candidate, Mr. Jack Coder, who's here with us, talking about what it is that he plans on doing. And I think, Carla May, right before we got out of here, you wanted to
Yeah,
add
so
a
you
question.
guys were talking about the money and the spending of the money. And so I just wanted to talk about, just mention that the Inflation Reduction Act, the Rescue Plan, the CHIPS, the Science Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure by President Biden is the reason we got all of this money downstream to cities, to local governments.
Right.
Now, in reference to the spending of the money, Biden just passed an executive order called Justice 40. And that was to raise the question of how aware are the states and the local governments, of the devastating impact of harboring the funds.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So that's
so
what.
that's what
So
his-
that's what it's gotten to
yes,
the point.
harboring
To,
the
people
recess.
are harboring the money.
That's what he's talking about. And he
Okay.
said, it's been decades, they've been addressing the needy distribution of federal dollars,
Yes.
especially in communities of color for blacks, brown, Latino, and Native American communities. And, so most people don't even know what Justice 40 is. So you need to look up that executive order that he passed. It's in reference to all of the money that has come down to local cities and states, but they're not getting the money out the door on the ground so that the money can do what was intended by the federal government. And if you look at that rescue plan and you see all the money they put in there, you can use broadband money to build cities. I'm just telling
Yeah.
you the way it was put. So I just wanted to bring that.
No, it's
to
a
the
great
table.
point. And I think it's also important to point out the reason we got so much money is because we have a lot of needs, right? As a city, we got a lot of money because it was based a lot on, poverty stats and poverty by census tract. And that's why we got $500 million. It's because we've got a poor city with a lot of problems. And so we've got to put it to work.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I want to ask you a question because a lot of candidates come on here and they talk, and I don't know, I'm just asking, I'm just real straightforward. When they come in, they always use the black community because they know they need some black folks too, and they should, because you're talking about the whole city. But normally when they come in, they talk a good game, but then once they start coming, because a lot of times when they talk about drugs and crime and all that there, that's how they get the money, as you say. And once they get it, black community don't get nothing. How are you going to show us for a fact how you going to help get some of that money down? Where it's just like you talked about the homeless, where people that really need it.
Yeah.
And not just say it, and I'm not saying you're doing it, but I want you to make me understand it because I can't figure stuff out too good.
Well, so I think my record speaks on this. I mean, one, look at the list of folks that have endorsed me. Majority of the Black Caucus of the Board of Aldermen supporting my candidacy because I've got strong relationships working with my black colleagues. A perfect example is the Black Business Corridors, where we wanted to use American Rescue Plan Act dollars to support those corridors. My opponent fought that. Now, she ultimately came around and voted for it, but I was a strong supporter of that from day one. When my colleagues said, look, we need this money for Natural Bridge, for MLK, for Grand.
Where the
We need
Zodiac
this.
is.
That's right. We need this money. I said, I'm there for you. It would be really hypocritical of me to oppose giving money to North Side business corridors when my ward has benefited greatly from public monies. And so I'm happy to run on my record of working with my colleagues in North St. Louis and supporting projects in North St. Louis.
And so no one has a plan about how to build the infrastructure in North St. Louis. So first of all, I've been dealing with MHDC because I feel like they have blocked developers from being able to do what we call infield single family homes. And so I'm going to bring that home because they writing in the law that, basically they're not able to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's an impairment. Also,
I
I think
agree.
that's an impairment is, the way LRA has been structured and ran,
Yeah.
because the city is still the largest, to me, slum landlord north of Delmar, because you don't find many
No.
houses south of Delmar that are LR8 homes.
11,000 vacant lots and buildings.
It's
That's
the
right.
map
And
is shocking to look at when
It
you see the
is.
number
It is.
of
I
LRA
got
lots.
the map,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah.
horrible. So, what is your plan, or do you have a plan to rebuild that part of the city as far as infield housing? You know, all of that land where they've torn down houses is vacant.
Right.
You know, what's the plan to rebuild it? And I'm leaving it.
No, it's a great point, and the infrastructure piece is critically important. And we need the state's help with that, and anything you can do to cut tape at MHDC, which is the Missouri Housing Development Corporation, would be much appreciated. And you're right about them. Their sole focus seems to be on large, multifamily, affordable housing because that's where developers can make the most money. But the reality is, we need a lot more single-family housing, right?
Absolutely.
We need it. I mean, we've got sites across the city, and that's where I think we've got to build off of our strengths. And you've got to look at if we're gonna redevelop, especially single-family projects on the north side. I mean, I think we've got to do those around our strengths, right? Be looking around that NGA site where we've got a lot of parcels. Be looking north of the Central West End as you get into the West End where you've got, development is sort of naturally moving along that corridor. I think there's ample opportunities to do so, but I think we've got to be smart. We've got to target it. We can't just say we're going to put a housing development over here and a housing development over here. You've got to build off your strengths and keep going north. And I think that's critical. And I'm excited. I think the mayor and Neil Richardson, her economic development director at SLDC, are really starting to hit their stride. They announced their new they're re-looking at how we deal with incentives, and they have I think a very laser focus on North St. Louis, and I think they're going to be. I think the Board of Aldermen has basically totally woken up that's got to be the focus. We've got to rebuild the north side. And so as board president, I'm going to assist those efforts. I mean, I think that's critically important. I'm not running for this job just to be, some obstructionist. I mean, these guys are doing a lot of stuff correctly, and we need to support them at the board.
Are you familiar with Kevin Bryant?
Kevin Bryant, the columnist, isn't he?
No, he's a developer.
Yeah, when you start talking about the Central West End and you're talking about that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes, yeah, I know, yes, I'm
Around
familiar.
Delmar,
Mr. Bryant's got some projects, I think, just north of
Kingsway,
Delmar,
I believe
doesn't
So
he?
it's called
here's-
I believe it's called Kingsway.
Yeah,
I want y'all to pay a real close attention to this young man because the things that you're talking about, he's already doing it.
yeah.
I don't know where he is. I just know a lot of times when people are doing something, everybody get in front of them, and next thing you know, they start stealing their ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is something that he's been doing for at least about 3 to 5 years that I know about. I know him and Neil Richardson was working together before he got in office there. I don't know where they're at now because I haven't talked to nobody, but we did have him on the show, 2 or 3 months ago. And he's really doing some big things. So I want you to just kind of put that up on your radar. Everything that you're just talking about as far as making sure in North St. Louis they're doing the development, pay attention real close to this young man named Kevin
Yeah,
Bryant.
will do.
Well, so his development is in my district. Well, not in my new district,
You're,
but in my old district.
it's
They've
still
cut off-
technically your district right
it's
now,
technically
right?
my district
It's always gonna be your
until
district.
December the 31st.
Right.
They've cut all my, don't even get me started talking about these people. But his development is going south of Kings Highway all the way to Taylor, north of Delmar over to Page.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's developing that square. But you also have a little development that's going on in pockets, right there between, the Third Degree Glass is partnering with some other people, and they're doing development on that block of Delmar from Kings Highway to Union.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Delmar Divine, I think, they're
I'm familiar with that project.
almost
Yep.
complete with that project over there, but they still got those other units that they're renting right there as well. But like I said, it's these falling down houses that we need to take care of in North St. Louis. And we did do something on the state level. Matter of fact, I did. I passed put into the budget the economic infrastructure. What we put in, we put $500,000 in it, and then we put $600,000 in it. And these were to go to entities in the city that were, doing things to reduce crime and trying to rebuild an area where you had deteriorating infrastructure. So, we did do that.
Yeah.
We need to put more money in there, but it still has to be what we call a local, the partnership with the local and the state.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we put $600,000 in there this past session. We put $500,000 last time. I created the fund, and we do have partners in the city and the county actually who have been applying for those funds and utilizing those funds.
Good.
I'm looking at your little saying here, say, if if you think real change can't happen in St. Louis, and you don't know Jack. Jack, I want to see something happen in this black community. I'm just telling you, ain't no, everybody else see everything else. I don't see nothing but black folks, because black folks been the ones suffering. I'm not a politician, so I can't talk the way y'all talk. Your job is to think about everybody, but who've been skipped over is black folks. So when I hear something, if you think real change can't happen, this is the real change I want to see. I want to see how y'all can help some black folks. I'm just going to tell you, because I threw a name out, and everything that you was talking about is tailor-made to this young man, Kevin Bryant. And I'm just going, because I know a lot of times y'all running from place to place. This Saturday morning, you probably got 15 more places you're going to do in the next 10 or 15 days before the 8th. You probably going to be at 100 places. Yep. And y'all tell people a lot of stuff. I don't want you to come on our show and just tell us something if you can't do it and real, because most people think it can't happen. They don't think black folks going to get a fair shake. I'm just telling you how we think. At least that's our brother Shaheed.
If they don't get out here and vote, they not.
Well, yeah. So, but I'm just saying, I like that's kind of catchy, to be honest. There,
That is.
I want to see if you can make that happen, like what you saying, real change. Because that's going to be a real damn change right there.
I want to talk about, on the last segment, we discussed defunding the police, or maybe even allocating the funding. And where's your stance on that? What do you believe?
Yeah, so that's something, that I think is a big issue in this campaign, and a big difference between me and my opponent is I'm running with the support of the Police Officers Union, and I'm proud to have the support of the rank and file men and women of the police department. I'm a former prosecutor, had to work closely with them. I know we've got a lot of challenges, and it's not a just throw police at it. You've got to have crime prevention, you've got to have intervention, but the reality is we have a police department that's critically short-staffed. We have 800-something officers right now. We're authorized to have close to 1,200, and the number's growing, not shrinking. We're losing officers at an alarming rate. Our 911 center is 51% understaffed. If you call 911, there's a strong likelihood any time of day you're going to get put on hold, and that's not right. Those are two of the core services the city's got to provide. When you need help, you need to be able to call for it. That someone needs to answer and someone needs to respond. And right now, we're sort of failing at both of those measures, and we've got to turn that around. Yeah. So I do support, and I won't back away from it. We got to pay our cops more. If you want to attract people to jobs, and it's not just the police, it's across the board with our city employees, but you've got to pay the cops more if you're going to get people to do these jobs, and you've got to fully staff the police department. My opponent can throw studies out from California, from town, suburbs of San Francisco saying, oh, we don't need more cops, and it's hooey. We do. Dan Isom, the public safety director, even says per capita stats of looking at police departments is not the right way to do it. This is a poor city with a lot of violent crime, and we need more police officers to help with it. And it's not just violent crime, it's traffic crime as well. I go all over the city, north and south. People are furious about how these fools are driving up and down the street. People are driving 80, 90 miles an hour on side streets. Over 170 people got killed in 2021 in this region. Vehicles killing pedestrians.
In this region?
That was in the city and county. Yeah, city and county. TrailNet.
170
176, I think. In the St. Louis city and county. That's an alarming number. When you figure the city had 200 homicides, I think, in 2021, another 176 people in the city and the county. And by the way, they're not getting killed in Ladue. They're getting killed on Natural Bridge. They're getting killed on...
Well, they would dare not drive in Ladue like that.
Right. Well, and that's part of my... And you know why? Because what would happen... Freeman, you're a lawyer, criminal defense lawyer. What happens if you drive like a crazy man through town and country? You're going to get a ticket, right? And that adjusts your behavior. And that's something we're not doing in the city. We're not doing that basic traffic enforcement. And one of the reasons is because we're so short-staffed. Other things take priority. I understand that. But this is not just a quality of life issue. It's a life and death issue when you got 170-something people.
So what do you say when, because I know that she was saying that restructuring the police department will put more officers on the street and get rid of the tier so you'll have more officers on the street. What are you saying to that?
Okay, great. You could go take every white shirt, every commander we've got, and throw them on the street. Well, right now the Bureau of Policing, the sort of boots on the ground, the rank and file police, that's where the shortages are. It's 155 plus officers. Okay, you could go ahead and take, you could go take every white shirt and throw them on the street, and you're still going to be 100 short. I mean, there's just not that many commanders.
And are they in physical condition to?
Yeah, that's
you know what I'm saying? If I'm a white shirt at this point,
Right.
I've earned this.
Right.
Am I physically able to get out and chase somebody?
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I mean, some of these folks, and one, they've got jobs to do as well. I'm not saying commanders shouldn't be out patrolling the streets at times. They should. They shouldn't lose touch with that. But a lot of them also have other responsibilities. They got to work on staffing. They got to worry about procurement, worry about equipment. I mean, they've got other jobs. Yes, we should have, we got to put those white shirts on the street a little bit more, but that doesn't solve our problem. That doesn't get us out of the critical shortage. Ultimately, you've got to pay these folks more. And I think at some point, Senator, and this is something you guys could maybe help with, we've got to look at pay for police as sort of a regional thing, because, you know, we'll go ahead and if we raise our police pay, St. Louis County is going to do the same thing. Jefferson County is going to do the same thing, and we get in this sort of tit for tat, and then we're just poaching from one another, right? I mean, we've got to get more police, train more people to become police officers and convince them to do so, but we can also just can't be poaching from each other's departments. So at some point, I don't know if we have to consider pegging police pay to the department, so when one raises it, the other goes up, to hopefully stop that tit for tat.
So we have, even St. Louis City took a vote, and the vote was very close. I think it was a 1% difference when it came to the question that we talked about last time, was residency for the police department. So right now, they're on a moratorium because the state passed a moratorium,
Right.
giving them 3 years, because what they tried to give them 10, but you know, I backed it down because if the vote came out from the people that they wanted the residency rule to stand,
Yeah.
that's our democracy.
Right.
And so local control is what it should be. Now, they're on this 3-year moratorium that is about to expire this session. And so I know the police wants to renew it. But what do you say? How many police have they hired from out?
Yeah.
They were given 3 years.
Right.
The police chief, you know, Hayden came to the Capitol, and we were, you know, at odds at this point.
Right.
Because, you know, one side of my district wanted to lift the residency rule, and the other side of my district wanted it to stay. So
Yeah.
that's, you know, that's just a, you know, and that's
Yeah.
the city is just, like I said, it was a 1% difference in the vote. So that's getting ready to expire. So how many people have they hired? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't think
you had
very many.
3 years. You haven't
Right.
hired anybody really outside the city.
No, and I think that's. I mean, I think they've hired a few from outside the city, but it's not. As far as I know, it's not more than a handful. I mean, it's not like this was a ringing success. I think the bigger issue is base pay, right? You can say, fine, you can live wherever you want, but if I'm going to go work for the city of St. Louis and make $47,000 a year starting, or I'm going to go work for St. Louis County and make $57,000 or almost $60,000 a year, I mean, that's simple math. What are you going to do? But I think we should look at, I mean, given the workforce shortages we're seeing citywide, not just in the police, tree trimmers, trash truck drivers, 911 dispatchers, you know, we've put the residency question to voters before. I think it's worth exploring whether we do that again, because it is going to take a vote of the people, because we're critically short-staffed across the board, and I firmly believe I don't really care where you live. If you give me an honest day's work for pay, that's what we need. We need people to show up and do the jobs.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the last few minutes that we got, I want to hear a little bit on the jail piece, and then you guys start giving your
Yes.
information out, because you haven't gave any information out. So let's hear about anything on the jails. We asked the question
And dealing
earlier.
with the staffing shortages, and dealing with how
People
unsafe
dying.
it is not
Oh.
only for the workers but even for the inmates.
The
Or the
situation
detainees.
in the downtown jail is shameful. What's going on there? I mean, when we've got a jail that was built 20-something years ago, it's a facility that needs a lot of upgrades, and it was built for not what it's being used for now. It wasn't supposed to house all of the city's pretrial detainees. It was supposed to house the most violent of offenders, so we were shortening their trip to the courthouse. That was the purpose of the medium security institution. Now we've had this campaign, I think, full of a lot of mistruths that's led to the closure of the medium security institution. And as expected, look at the result. We've overcrowded the downtown jail. There's riots. There's huge problems. I think something like 6 people have been killed since April in the downtown jail, and it is shameful what we've done. We defunded one correctional facility, crammed everybody into the other one, and we've made a terrible situation.
And the drug overdose is serious.
Yeah, it's very serious.
So how do people reach you, Jack? What do we-
You can reach me a number of ways. My campaign website, jackcoder.com. That's COATAR.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Coder or on Facebook at Jack Coder.
Can you give a slow version of that, what you just gave out?
Certainly. Sorry. I'm well caffeinated.
Okay,
You can find me at jackcoder.com.
Okay.
COATAR.
Okay.
You can find me on Twitter at Jack Coder or on Facebook, Jack Coder.
Do you have a headquarters?
Yeah, my headquarters is right downtown in the Park Pacific building, 1220 Olive.
how easy is it gonna get you? We're getting you easy now.
What's that?
It's easy to catch you now. How easy is it gonna be to catch you once you get in office and you get?
I'm pretty easy to find. Ask anybody who knows me. I'm out and
asking,
about.
that's why I'm looking
yeah.
you dead in your eye. I'm asking you a
Oh
question.
yeah, I'll happily come back. I mean that's.
But I ain't talking about just coming back here. If somebody need to call you,
Yeah.
how accessible, how easy does it get you?
I'm pretty easy to find. You can call City Hall and they'll certainly get me the message. I mean, I give everybody my cell phone number in my district. I don't really want to give it out on the radio,
Yeah, you
but
don't-
my constituents all have it.
Okay, okay.
But as long as you give a number,
That's right.
okay.
So the whole city getting ready to be your constituents if you win this.
That's
office.
right.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we're glad you
Well, we
came by here
appreciate
this
you.
morning. What in the last 30 seconds, what is it that we didn't get out that we need to know about you?
Well, I think what's important to know about me is that I'm good at building consensus, and that's a big part of this job. I mean, you've got to be able to get along with your colleagues. It's why so many of them are supporting me. Not running the Board of Aldermen, yes, it's big policy, it's citywide issues, but it's also calling the balls and strikes, running these meetings. And you got to have someone up there that folks respect and they know is going to call those balls and strikes fairly every week, and I'm that person in this race.
Let me ask you a quick question. You can answer by saying it's fair, good, or needs to work on. What type of relationship do you have with Mayor Treshava Jones? Is it fair, good, or you
I'd say it's fair.
fair?
Okay.
Because we need somebody that we can work together.
I agree.
Regardless to what
But
it
I
is.
also think it's important to have an independent voice. I don't think you need a rubber stamp in this job.
I agree with you on that too.
All right.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah, Carla May, take us out.
You have been listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show and the Carla May Show.
How you slide that in there?
Okay, CC 1600.
You gotta say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Come on,
Keep
man.
it on lock.
Keep it on
and
lock.
Quit playing.
Quit
Keep it on
playing.
like and stop playing.
Welcome back, St. Louis. You're listening to the Freeman Bosley Jr. Show on KTZ 1600. Hallelujah, AM. Well, we've had a pretty good show. We've talked about it has really been dedicated to the President of the Board of Aldermen's election that's coming up November the 8th. And so we had Jack Coder in. We had Megan Green in. I think both candidates gave a pretty good account of themselves, but you got to drill down. The devil's in the details, gang. You got to ask yourself the serious questions. Did you understand what they were talking about? And which one of them are you going to be for? So, Carla May, take it away.
Yes, and yes, who you're going to be for. So we are at the crux of a very serious election. Voting opens up October the 25th. That is Tuesday of next week. You have to vote like your life depended on it. Parents, get your young people to the polls. Young people, you have to get to the polls. This is a serious thing. I'm telling you, all of the rights are on the ballot. All of your individual rights are on the ballot. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution is on the ballot. If you don't get there, it could be, you talking about women's reproductive rights, you might say, well, that don't have nothing to do with me. But these voting rights, that has something to do with you. But let me tell you something. It may be that today, but you don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. This U.S. Senate race is very important. And listen, I get it. I get it. People talking about, let me tell you something. You can't choose when you born what family you born into. Just remember that. You cannot choose what family you born into. All of us are born into different families. That's just a fact. But what we can't do is we can't sit on our laurels and not get to these polls to vote. Because if we don't take this U.S. Senate seat, you're going to have two Trumpsters in that race. Two people who supported that insurrection that happened. Two people who are supporting and perpetuating the lies that President Biden didn't win this election. We do not want people in office when we know the sky's blue, they saying it's red. Come on, people. Get to the polls because your life depends on it. I'm telling you, they're going to turn back the clock. They're going to empower the division in our country, the racist division that's happening right now is empowered by these people. You do not want them to elect two of these Trump people for U.S. Senate. I'm telling you, you need to get to the polls. And you need to get there and vote by Halloween. It starts Tuesday, October the 25th. You can go to the Booter Library. That's at 4401 Hampton Avenue. You can go to the Julia Davis Library, 4415 Natural Bridge. You can get to the Shafley Library, 22225 North Euclid. And then the St. Louis Board of Election right there on Tucker. You know where Julia Davis is in the hood. Right at Natural Bridge and Newstead.
Natural Bridge, Newstead.
And Booter, right over on Hampton. Come on, people. Let's get there. That's what I'm talking about. This is a serious election. Every election is serious. But this is serious.
Yes.
So you say the 25th. I want to make sure we got it right. The 25th of October,
The 25th October.
We talking about another week from now.
That's right. And if you don't have your ID, go get you a state ID. It's going to be free because they put it in, because when they created this voter ID, you can go to the DMV and get you a state ID. Just get a state ID so you can go vote. And make sure all of your elderly and geriatric people around you have everything they need to vote. Every vote counts.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It's extremely important. And also, please, don't forget this local election. This
local election. This President Board of Aldermen. This
is
is serious.
critical. You heard Megan Green say, and as well as Jack Coder, we got money now. Long time ago, 1993, beyond, the city didn't have any money. We were poor-mouthed. We had to try to put our hands on something. We were lucky if we had $1 million in the bank. Now we have $1 billion in the bank. We ain't done a damn thing with it, but we got it. So now that we got it, let's do something with it. And that's the key. And whoever's president of the Board of Aldermen is going to be part of driving that car to releasing that money into this community. And so that's another reason why you got to make sure you exercise your right to vote on who's going to be president of the Board of Aldermen, because you want that money out of the bank and into the community.
And
You
you
want
have to
that
vote on
money
it.
out of the bank and into places where it's needed. It's been sitting there for a year now.
Yes, but we want to make sure that it gets to key places, because we don't want, individuals that are elected that only care about one part of the city.
Yes, right.
The whole city need to be the priority, and we need to build up the part that has been neglected for all of these years as well. So that's key. You should be able to drive and go anywhere in the city and say it's an amazing place
Ain't no
to
secret.
be.
That's right.
Ain't no secret.
And that's right. You can't be leader of one part of the city and not the whole city. So, that's why you need to get to the polls.
And it's too late to get registered for this election, but it's not too late to get registered, because we'll be back here in April. All right, so go ahead and get registered. But Senator wanted to make sure you all have this number. If you have any issues, because voter suppression is real, if you have any issues, you want to call 866-OUR-VOTE, 866-OUR-VOTE, 866-687-8683. One more time, 866-687-8683. Will you be at the polls?
Oh, absolutely.
All
I'm going
right.
to be at the
Worry about
polls.
that.
I'm going to have people at the polls. We're going to have some ballots at the polls. We're going to need you to get out to vote. This is serious. You got to
Yes.
vote like your life depended on it, because, you're talking about women's rights, individual rights. You're talking about, telling people who they can love. You're talking about just all of the common things that are out here. You want to be able to freedom. Let me tell you something. This country was founded on freedom of speech, freedom of religion. That's what it was founded on. So if all of those things are under attack right now, you do not want a dictatorship government. You do not want a country to live in a country where people support overthrowing the government. We will be just like a third world country where we'll be constantly at war with the government and militia. You don't want to live in those circumstances. So we need to get our government back, and we need to elect the right people, and y'all need to get to them polls and vote.
And if you just think about, a lot of us can relate to this because we got somebody in jail. If it ain't for nothing, you got to just tune into that. You're talking about somebody who has a vote on the ENA. You want to make sure that you focus and understand that whatever's happening to your people up in the jail, if you don't get this right president of the Board of Aldermen in there, they're going to have more problems than they already got when they go to jail.
Yeah.
That's when they're going to start having their problems. So for all the reasons that the senator is talking about and that Secretary Felicia is talking about, let's get to the poll. It's October. I want to make sure I'm getting that date right. October. We drilling down. That's why I keep
October
talking.
the 25th
Yeah.
is when it starts, and you don't need no excuse.
Yeah.
So get there and don't make no excuse.
And also,
And we want you to
I'm
vote
sorry.
for
Go ahead,
Trudy
please.
Bush Valentine for the senator, the U.S. Senate seat, because you have to, because she's running against a Republican. And I'm not even saying the name, but I'm telling you, you don't want to put these Trumpsters in office.
All right.
That's right. So you need to vote for Trudy Bush Valentine. I get it. I'm going to tell you again, people don't, you have no choice of what family you was born into, and we're going to leave it at that.
She'll be the first registered nurse.
She'll be,
Yes.
that's right, she'll be the first registered nurse.
Shout us
and
out.
she was a hospice nurse as well. So those,
And she did COVID injections. So-
Absolutely. So
Now,
listen.
I want to say this before time run out.
running
You're
out.
not too young to be a part of this election if you're 16, 17, or 18. Right now, they're offering $125 a day for high school students to come out and be a poll worker. You'll be a greeter, and you can be 16, 17, or $125. Okay, so go to St. Louis, Missouri, to the our website, St. Louis, Missouri governor website. Lord, let me give it to you.
Who's
At
paying?
stlouis-mo.gov. stlouis-mo.gov. I'm not sure who's paying, but our babies get paid $125 to go out and be a greeter, and you can get credit. A political science credit. Okay, so get more information, Mom. Get your kids out there.
$125?
I
Yes,
need
sir.
you to get to them polls and vote.
Just that
you need
simple.
to vote by Halloween. It's just
right.
that simple, because this is a serious election, and I can't say it enough.
We can close it down,
All
Mary.
right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. We've had a good time Catch us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 100. Oh, come on.
Keep it on lock. Quit playing.
Get it up. This is an overview.
That's my babies. They're my babies.
Good
Spend that
show.
money.
Good show. Good show.